Welcome back to Daily Dive. We are talking all things NLL, and Mike and I had the chance to discuss the Las Vegas Desert Dogs, the news around the injury procedures, and now as we get into the Saskatchewan Rush, got to bring in their play-by-play broadcaster, Cody Janzen. Welcome, Cody. Nice to have you here.
Hey, happy to be here. Love the two initiatives you guys are doing, and always down to talk some lacrosse.
Yes. Well, let's talk about the Rush. We were talking about strong fan bases, so it only makes sense that we get into the Rush, who absolutely consistently year after year have one of the best fan bases across the NLL. And they went 3-0 this preseason. And, I know you've been tweeting and talking about just their preseason expectations. What are your expectations for this team, especially as they're trying to turn that corner and have a better season this year than last?
Well, the expectations have to be that they're a playoff team, right? I don't think that surprises anyone that they're going to be going for another championship here. But you also have to be realistic in a sense of San Diego's in your division and they just loaded up. So is it realistic to say, hey, we are the top team in the West, or we're going to be the number one team come playoff time? I'm not sure I would be going that far yet. Let's play a few games maybe before we decide. But the expectations is to make the playoffs and go on a run, as is every year. I think with Derek Keenan adding a guy like Alex Bouquet between the pipes, I think that's a huge addition. You've got some of the young guys coming up and going to be making an impact. So you've still got some of those mainstays up front in Mark Matthews, Robert Church, that are going to provide offense. And I think with that, as long as you've got them, you should be a playoff team in this league.
Yeah, the news about Alex moving to the Rush to be the netminder was exciting. And there's, as you mentioned, a lot of newcomers, a lot of new faces within this team, which makes sense, especially as they're trying to turn that corner to be able to compete in the conference and the league as a championship caliber team. So I'm curious to know, based on early predictions, season hasn't officially started yet. Why not give your early predictions? Who do you expect to be the biggest impact in terms of newcomers coming in, whether it's a trade or a player picked up in free agency like Alex, or if it's a player that is a rookie?
It's hard not to pick Alex Bouquet, right? Like he's a goalie. I think after preseason, again, starter hasn't been announced, but I think he's probably earned that number one spot, despite how good Eric Penny was against Colorado last season. Bouquet is just a guy who really fits the bill, and I think that he's going to have a massive impact on the back end. You've got Jake Boudreau, a rookie, a first-round pick coming up, speed, skill, physical play size. He's got it all. He's going to make a big impact. But in preseason, especially against Calgary, I thought Marty Dinsdale was their best forward. And this is a guy coming back to Saskatchewan. He's got 3 championships left for Vancouver. He is going to be an impactful righty, which they were missing last season. They missed that little extra push from the righties on offense. So I think Dinsdale could have a massive impact on this team, one that's going to surprise a lot of the NLL.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, starting with Eric Penny and Alex Bouquet, two goaltenders that have over the years made their mark on the league, and we've seen them step up in big ways. And I agree with you. I think it's Alex, but for Eric being the number 2, still a great goaltender in that. And then, as you mentioned, moving forward through the rest of the roster, there's a lot to be excited about. Some changes that needed to be made that have been adjusted. And who are your players that you think are going to need to also take that next step in leading this group in terms of helping them be a playoff team, a championship caliber team?
Well, you're going to have to ask a lot more from some of your veterans off the back end. You bring back Kyle Rubish on a 1-year deal. Ryan Dilks gets the franchise piece. Matt Beers is back here, and they've got a young group around them. So you do need your veterans to step up a little bit. And it's not like they played bad last year. It's just, hey, you're going to have to play a bigger role. You're going to have to take on a little bit of a different adjustment just because of the pieces you have on the back end. So I think everyone has to step up in a sense, but up front, you need a little bit more offense. You can't just have Robert Church and Mark Matthews rowing the boat. I think Dan Lintner did take a good step forward. I still think he should be a 30-goal guy in this league, especially with the power play minutes he's playing. So I think he's a guy who can definitely step up. Marty Dinsdale as well is going to help to chip in. Ryan Keenan. He's a guy who had a down year last year. It's going to happen. Not everyone can go and throw together 5 straight great years in the NLL. So he knows it. He knows he's got to be better. He looked like he had a little bit of a jump in his step as well. So I'm expecting him to take on a bigger role again this upcoming season. And I don't think that that's anything unreasonable to ask because he knows where his ceiling is, and he definitely wasn't at it last year.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Essentially, Saskatchewan for many years consecutively was a title team or just right there, and the rest of the league has made adjustments and caught up, and they had that target on their back. And so now they're trying to get back to that spot of being, an NLL title team. And when you look at players like Matthews, who have been at the top of the league and done such a tremendous job, it's time to now figure out how can the veterans raise their level, but also bring in some of those new faces to add something different that now on scouting reports and in film session, it's not as easy to plan for Saskatchewan because you don't know what to expect coming onto the field. So obviously, big game Saturday. It's time. The season is already here. First of all, it's insane that it's December 1st, but with December 1st means the excitement of the league getting started. So they get to host the defending champs in the Colorado Mammoth. And what type of game do you think fans should expect, and what should we expect as viewers for game one of week one?
It's going to be a battle. Every time Colorado and Saskatchewan play, it's always a 1 or 2 goal game. So I think you can bet the farm. It's probably going to be something like that. But again, at home, Saskatchewan has had Colorado's number. They beat them twice last year. Robert Church goes off for a 5-goal game, scores the overtime winner. And then Eric Penny stands on his head as well. And late in the season, too, even Adam Shute comes in and you beat him 9-8 in a defensive battle where Shute did have to make some big saves late. You got different goal scores in there. So for Saskatchewan, you just know you're not going to put 15-16 past Dylan Ward. That doesn't happen. He's one of, if not the best goaltender in the league. So I would expect a defensive battle. But in Colorado's sense, they're missing Ryan Lee. And when looking, oh man, I had the numbers before. I don't have a notepad. I think he had 22 points in 3 games against the Rush last year. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But again, he just absolutely ate when they were playing the Rush. So with him out of the lineup, where's the extra offense going to come for Colorado? Yes, you get McLaughlin back. Yes, you still got Connor Robinson. You've got some awesome pieces there. But they're not Ryan Lee having 22 points in 3 games. That's just outrageous numbers at 7 points per game. Maybe that's 21. I'm not a math guy. Again, it's going to be low score. I didn't get asked to come on here to do math. No, I mean, you're going to see a low-scoring game. It's going to be a close game. And the least surprising thing is probably that we could get overtime. I think that's a very likely chance. And to have that in your home opener, season opener, it's no wonder Rush fans pack the building.
Oh yeah, and honestly, that is the hope. You want great games. Everybody's been chomping at the bit at the start of the season, just excited to see how all these off-season changes and expansion teams and moves have made an impact so that now we can finally see them play out. We've been talking about it. We've been following it. It's time to finally see it happen. Now, I'm going to ask, because why not? You talk about a possible overtime game. What is your prediction on score? Give us your game prediction Saturday, what you think is going to go down.
That's the one question I don't want to ask whenever I go on shows. But okay, everything was so close last year. I'll say 10-9 Rush. I think that's a very reasonable score. I think we see overtime. I think we see a back and forth game that's not going to have these big 5-goal swings like you see elsewhere. I think it's going to be 1 or 2 goals each, back and forth. It's an absolute battle. Saskatchewan needs their power play to connect. I mean, that was one of their saving pieces last year to keep them in. If their power play's strong, that's going to carry them along the way. They can draw some penalties with their speed, with their physicality. So it's going to be a close game. I think 10-9. I'll stick with overtime since I want to see it as well. Who doesn't like that as a broadcaster? But yeah, that's my prediction.
Yeah, and what a great way that would be to start off the season as we talk about the Rush trying to get back to being a championship caliber team to knock off the defending champs. And also, as you talk about a home opener in front of a packed house, to be able to start the season that way. So I would love a nice 10-9 overtime game. I think that gives you a little bit of everything because defensively it's not, as you mentioned, a swing of 5 or 6 goals either direction. It's a defensive stalemate, but it also means that we've seen some creative offensive looks, whether it's converting on the power play or just maybe being able to find some creative goals that make the difference. Because as we talk about with Dylan and Bouquet, those are some tough goalies to have to beat. So I'm expecting it's not going to be a game that's lopsided, and that's my hope. I'm not a fan of those games, especially as a broadcaster, because we come out to see some great nail-biting, down-to-the-wire close games. But I'd love to see some defensive big plays, some great saves, some great attacks. And I would say around 10-9 makes them. I would say a 2-goal difference though. I'm gonna just be different. Why not? And say I'm gonna go 8-10. But I'm gonna stick with. I hate to say the Mammoth, but I hate to say it. I'm thinking the Rush are gonna go up. I think the Mammoth are gonna storm back late, and I think it's gonna be like a 2-goal swing where, as the Rush are trying to tie things up, the Mammoth get that second kind of like insurance goal in that sense for the win. But what do I know? We'll see.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
We'll see who is correct. But there, just to play devil's advocate, I had to pick so that we're not both picking the same, and we'll see who is correct on this prediction moving forward.
Totally fair. Totally fair.
Well, Cody, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the Daily Dive. I'm excited to have you back on in the future, especially to break down more predictions, previews, thoughts as the season is going along, especially with the Rush hoping to climb the ladder and be back at the top of the NLL this season. So thank you so much for taking time out of your Thursday to join us here on our season opener.
Always a pleasure. Look forward to
Thank
watching the show. Go Rush, go.
Yes. Cody Janzen.